Not too far to travel tonight as we head from South Carolina just up to North Carolina. However, this isn't any other oval, it's the Roval. Will Nick Nickerson be able to take his third road course win of the year? And who's going to advance into round 2 of the playoffs? We'll find out in just over 100 miles. It's the Roval 45. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Marshall. As we got qualifying right now, Nick Nickerson, of course, is on top of the board. And just talk a little bit about this track. You're the road course guy. Tell us what to expect out of this race.
We do. Well, first of all, thank you as always, Evan, and welcome everybody to another fun round of the series. But yeah, Roval, I mean, is one of my favorite domains in the entire service, whether it be NASCAR or any other series. It's one of the most fun technical circuits. Maybe not circuit, but one of the most fun technical tracks on the NASCAR calendar in any discipline. It's so difficult in so many unique ways. I mean, we sit here in qualifying. This is Curtis Yancey now. The 51 car currently sits 4th on the board, just finishing up his second attempt. And really, what's so important to remember about the Roval is that unlike most other road courses, or even ovals, when you think of racing, you think of speed. You think of trying to keep up as much speed as possible throughout the lap. Whereas here at Roval, it's just such a technical track. I mean, really, you're trying to prioritize the hitting your marks and hitting your apexes and making sure you really slow the car down, because these NASCAR cars, especially the Xfinity cars, Evan, as we've seen countless times throughout the year, can have both understeer and oversteer problems. There's not a consistent way that they swing. So you really got to balance that out during the race. And one thing that's going to be so important, I was talking about pre-race, is certain drivers just have this comfort with the car. Guys like Ricky Hart, like Nick Nickerson, that have been here a long time, know their cars very well. And in turn, it's easier to guess what the car is going to do in any given corner. You're going to have instances where the car slips and slides, and that's easier when you keep it slow like a guy like Nick Nickerson does. He just finishes up his qualifying effort, and as we both probably could have guessed, goes to the top of the board by just about over a second. He's getting close. Brett Guzik, though, a great time, though, to go second, but that's really what Nick does, and we see here, I think we're on board with Cody Welch, who currently sits third, finishing up his second attempt. You'll see here, it's prioritizing, keeping it slow there through the corners, trying to load the car up early, don't lock up the brakes, but also don't lose the back end. I mean, keeping it slow sounds counterintuitive, but it's going to be the key here at Roval. Just hitting your marks, looking for your apexes, rather than trying to keep up speed. And just don't be a superhero. That's kind of how I can put it best, is use technique, not sheer pace. And if guys can do that here at the Roval, it'll be great. But again, just such a fun track. Not always easy to pass, but on its own, one of the most fun tracks in the entire service. And here comes Cody Welch, second lap. I find guys probably going to run their best lap on their second lap once they get a little bit warmed up. Whoa, gets real loose there in the last corner. You see it coming across the line. Has trouble keeping the car under him, but he does finish the lap. Will stay third. And I believe we have a new driver to the series there in fourth, and maybe you can enlighten us about him, Evan. But yeah, that's going to be my thoughts on the track, and I can't wait for a great event tonight.
Yeah, we've got Ashley Molyneux, the driver of the 45 car, sitting there in fourth position. A great run from him, and a new driver to the series. That's not a name that I have heard before. I don't believe he was here with us last week. I don't believe he's been with us all season. So it'll be great to see what the driver of the 45 can do out here on a road course. Maybe there's somebody out here that can finally dethrone Nick Nickerson, but we'll have to see once we get this day going on. Right now we're looking at the 7 car of Benjamin Lacey. He put down a time of 1:24.63. So we're watching him. Still a good bit of drivers left to take their time. Alan Castle going to be one of those that still hasn't taken his time yet. And speaking of Alan Castle, shout out to him. Thank you, Alan Castle, for sponsoring tonight's race. So everyone head on over to rogueenergy.com and use code Castle Esports to get 10% off your order there at rogueenergy.com. There you see Benjamin Lacey a little bit sideways, getting back up onto the oval section.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about just a moment ago, Evan, about how, keeping slides down, keeping those high-speed, oversteer moments down was ideal. That's probably the one corner you can afford it, is trying to keep up the pace and keep up the momentum onto those long straightaways that you see on the actual oval. Of course, the Charlotte Motor Speedway oval configuration uses that outside portion, and say from this bus stop that Benjamin Lacey just finished up going through, it's the oval layout with the infield. So when you get on the oval, whether it be out of the bus stop or out of that corner you saw the big slide from the number 7 car in, those two corners you want to prioritize keeping your speed up, and in turn having, you know, your revs as high as possible out of the corner, but also your speed as high as possible through as much of the oval as possible. That can gain you valuable seconds, tenths of seconds. It can be crucial, and I think it's something that Nick does really well by keeping the car settled down. But now we see the 38 car, Peter Murphy, currently 13th in qualifying. He's going to run lap number 2. Does not look like he's improved into the top 10. Maybe he's improved from 13th. He hasn't. So he's going to run a 126 flat, just about 3.5 seconds off the pole time. But again, you know, in a series like this that's really meant more about the ovals. I mean, the Xfinity car runs here at the Roval, but certainly isn't the track you'd say it's necessarily suited to. Even just being able to adapt to the point of running a lap like a 126 or something there is impressive enough. And really tonight, I don't think Evan Pace is going to be the entire story. I think consistency, as always here at the Roval, or the ovals in this series, or the road courses, I should say, is ultra crucial. So if guys can master that part and not only keep the car fast for 2 laps during qualifying, but for 45 come the real race to get to the end, not just in the first couple laps of a qualifying still.
Yeah, qualifying is important, but it's not everything. As you see the 98 car having to put it into reverse, that's never good. Anytime you start having to go backwards on track, that's James R. Hartley. Just put down his first lap time, working on his second lap right now. Of course, that's going to be the slowest there, and looks like he's just going to putter on around now. Already has some damage for that car. Let's see who else we can take a look at. Kevin Foster right here. I believe this will be his second lap. Not exactly positive. Foster sitting in 10th position right now.
Yeah, it doesn't quite manage to improve. Came fairly close though. Just about a half a second off of his original lap time. And again, the margins here at Roval can be much larger than expected. You know, half a second here at Roval can be really just one mistake in a crucial part, like getting back onto the oval, can make that much of a difference. And it's why to run a lap like Nick Nickerson's absurd 122.55, you got to really hit every aspect one after another. In this corner that we see Kevin going through now, he's on his off lap. He's just finished up, and I think most drivers have come to the end of their qualifying attempts if they are going to run one. But that corner there was crucial. You want to hit the inside apex, and this one too, that inside wall there on the left. You want to slow the car up as much as possible and then gun the gas as early as possible once you've avoided that barrier. It's about getting on the throttle as quick as possible, as it is with all road courses, and that's going to be vital in tonight's race and keeping up speed through those high-speed sections.
Yeah, before we get ready to grid here, before we look at our starting lineup, real quick, after tonight, the top 8 drivers in points will advance into round 2. Points will not be reset. So as you see these guys lined up right here, let's go ahead and take a look at our current points. Nick Nickerson is going to lead it. He got the big jump with 5 bonus points last week for an incident-free race. So Nick Nickerson with the big jump. Cody Welch tied for first place in points. Then Benjamin Lacey is going to be in 3rd. Ricky Hart Jr. in 4th. Brandon Jackson in 5th, followed by Garrett Hall, Trey Ellis, and Curtis Yancey would be your cutoff driver. He would be the last driver to advance right now, but we'll have to see how this race goes on. There's some good drivers right outside that cutoff line. Matt Crockett almost able to make it. He's only 1 point behind Yancey right now. Kevin Foster, a champion the last time this series ran the Xfinity cars, right now sitting in 10th position. Greenwell tied for 10th. Ferrara, Guzik, Hogan, Alan Castle, a bunch of good drivers in that. Right outside of the playoff position, Victor Weaver sitting there in 19th position, the last driver in the playoffs. I don't know if there's enough for him to make it up, but who knows, maybe Victor Weaver can come out here, get a win tonight. We'll see what top 8 drivers are going to advance. Curtis Yancey and Matt Crockett going to be the ones to watch right on the bubble. Getting ready to go, though, let's go ahead and take a look at our grid tonight as we get ready to start the Rogue Roval 45, sponsored by Alan Castle. Starting on the pole, of course, going to be Nick Nickerson in the number 2 car with a time of 1:22.559. You got Brett Guzik, Cody Welch, Ashley Molyneux, Brandon Jackson, Curtis Yancey, Davey Hendricks, Benjamin Lacey, Tyler Rowland, and Kevin Foster to round out the top 10.
Into the 10s, we got Connor Sawyer starting in 11th on the inside of road number 6 with Garrett Hall to his outside, one of our playoff drivers. After that, we got Peter Murphy starting in 13th, Terry Condis to his outside starting in 14th. Trey Ellis will round off the top 15. He currently sits in a playoff spot. Then Bill Harkins, after that, our very own, starts in 16th with Jason Greenwell, fellow playoff driver, starting in 17th. Mark Allen Bivens to his outside, starting in 18th. Again, Matt Crockett, a guy that's on the cutoff here in the playoffs. Very crucial race for him tonight. He'll be starting from the pit, so he will not start in 19th position, but he shows up there on the grid. And Charles Oberg will round out the top 20.
In 21st position, it's going to be Hunter Henry in the 94 car, followed by James R. Hartley, Ricky Hart Jr., last year's champion. Then Drew Kennedy sitting in 24th position. In 25th is going to be Mason Flagar, followed by David Leakey, Alan Castle, Mitchell Sullivan, Thomas Finsler, and Anthony Caetano.
Well, I think the very first thing I want to point out is seeing both the situation with Matt Crockett and a couple other guys. I think we got some guys intentionally avoiding running qualifying times to start from the back of the field. Probably a tactical thing to try to avoid crashes and all the chaos there at the very beginning. You know, these cars on cold tires, guys still getting into terms with the conditions here today. You know, the hotter track and slippier racing surface. It's interesting to see some of the guys maybe making that play there, Evan, for the playoffs and trying to think about their long-term race strategy. As we were just talking about, it's not just qualifying, it's running 45 whole laps. So those guys like Ricky Hart, very experienced, who decide to start at the back of the field, or Matt Crockett will start from the pits. Could be a good plan going forward.
Yeah, and real quick, right before we get going green here, here's a look at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval so you can really kind of see what it looks like from a top-down view. Of course, the road course here in Concord, North Carolina, 2.24 miles long, 116-degree track temperature outside, only 76-degree ambient temperature, a little bit of humidity, but a cloudy day here in virtual North Carolina through iRacing. Going to go ahead and pull up our map. There you can see where drivers are on track, and of course the drivers that have the lime green background are playoff drivers. The drivers that don't are not playoff drivers. The drivers with the black background are playoff drivers. Are not playoff drivers. I'm sorry, getting a little tongue-tied there.
Yeah, the two main guys we've talked about the last couple of weeks that aren't, well, the one guy we talked about a lot was Davey Hendricks, a non-playoff driver who just joined the series. He's made a name for himself and earning a podium last week. And as well, Ashley Molyneux making his debut tonight. He could play a big role in the race, starting from that outside of row number 2. He's going to be right up there. So we got two non-playoff guys in the race order. Could play a big effect. But here we are coming to the green through the first time through the famous chicane here at the Roval.
Yeah, getting ready to go green here. Nick Nickerson going to be the one to lead us to green. And they're off the 2 car with the big lead. Brett Guzik going to follow right behind them, followed by Cody Welch, who's side by side with the 45 of Ashley Molyneux.
Yes, indeed, a real aggressive start from the 45 car, making his debut race there through turn 1 was nice and aggressive there, trying to make an outside pass on Cody Welch the first time by, but not going to have any success there on the first attempt. We seem fairly clean here. I don't mean to jinx it, but through the first couple corners here at Roval, usually with cars on colder tires trying to get up to temp, it can be tough to keep the back end under you, but everybody seems to be finding success so far as we make our way through the infield for the first time. Coming back towards the first time on to the greater oval. You see a couple passes a little ways back, but generally speaking, a pretty consistent order here this first time by. There is Ricky Hart. We see already starting to make his way through the field. Started back there in, let's make it exact here. Started back there in 23rd, already up to 18th. He's making plenty of progress. A few other drivers here just getting onto the oval now. Now is the high-speed section. We'll see quite a few passes. This is Mason Flagar there in the number 72, and I believe it is the 82 car of...
It's the O2 of Charles A. Oberg, a driver that I believe he was a spotter out here racing the Roval, seeing what he can do on this road course. Oh,
Whoa,
some trouble there
with
with the
him.
17. Thomas Finsler and Charles Oberg, 17 and the O2 get together.
Yeah, we already saw considerable damage there on the front end of the 98 car of James Hartley, so clearly been some chaos there in the background, but generally speaking, most drivers just finishing up lap 1 now. Nick Nickerson has already completed his first lap here. And there's the 83 car of Jason Greenwell. He is a playoff driver, so large stakes for him, but again, you see considerable damage to the front end of his car. But as you look at the track map, most drivers now just getting through the first lap of the race. Some guys still making it through the final chicane who had troubles there a moment ago, including, as we just mentioned, Richard Oberg, who you mentioned there was Charles Oberg, I should say, was a spotter prior, now making his debut here in the series. So a couple new faces to tonight's event. But right now, Nick Nickerson, I mean, as he always does, just kind of gets in a rhythm here early, doesn't seem to make any mistakes. But Brett Guzik, to his credit, even a lap in, you'd think the guy that had more experience here at a track like Roval would get, out of the blocks on colder tires much quicker, but Brett's keeping with him. He's keeping within eyesight. He's out of the draft, but a nice little start here for the 04 car. Definitely has pulled him clear of Cody Welch in second, who still has first-time driver here in the series, Ashley Molyneux, not too far behind. So our top four here, all off to pretty fair starts. But again, Brett Guzik, you see there, just a considerable gap back to that great battle. And here at the Roval, guys taking up your line, taking up the inside or the outside, whatever apex you're going for in any particular corner, can definitely slow down your lap pace. So as long as those two guys behind the 04 car are battling, I like Brett's chances to at least hold this spot for now and maybe try to work up some lap times to maybe not, be faster then, but at least keep pace with Nick Nickerson.
And speaking of Nick Nickerson, his last lap time was the quickest of the race. As we ride on board with him. You see how calm he is coming through this infield section right now and how smooth he is with the steering wheel in his hand.
It's just incredible to watch a guy running these absurdly fast lap times looking like he's driving his kids to soccer. Like he has absolutely no sense of urgency or trouble anywhere. And you just watch his eyes even in that in the Skype camera. Just look at his attention he's paying not only to his shifter or to his on track or to his on-screen overlays, but just checking the braking markers. He keeps his eyes on a fixed point and turns the car in reference to that point. And it's something that's just, it makes him almost untouchable in terms of technique. Means he makes almost no mistakes. And it's something a few other guys must be doing as well, because a guy like Ricky Hart has moved up quite a few spots throughout the field. He's off to a flying start here, just made a pass on Trey Ellis. So now the 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr. up 8 spots in only three laps here, 3 very short laps here at the Roval. So making progress. Now there's a couple cars up ahead that he can try to weave through as well. But generally speaking, I mean, the top 10 off of the first lap, Evan, no passes in the top 10 to change for position. Now we see Drew Kenny there in the 19 car. He'll get the move done as well on Trey Ellis. So the 4 car kind of going backwards, but he's one of those guys in a playoff spot currently. So this is a big race for the 4 car in his hopes to make the round of 8 in the next round of playoffs.
Yeah, Drew Kennedy with a nice pass there right into the braking zone of that chicane. Trouble for a couple of drivers. There was some trouble for Hunter Henry there. You see he has a little bit of damage on that outside, but able to get by Thomas Fensler in the 17 car, move his way up into 21st position right now out of 30 drivers that started this race.
Just keeping an eye elsewhere throughout the field. This battle that we're looking at now is great and involves a lot of big name drivers. I mean, from Cody Welch, who has 2 wins on the season, one of the most successful guys in the calendar. He is just ahead of Brandon Jackson, but just behind Ashley Molyneux. We talked about the number 45 driver making their debut tonight, and they've already moved up into the podium spots, just like we saw Davey Hendricks do in his sophomore appearance last week. Now, Brandon Jackson, who's had some great battles with Cody Welch all season, he's trying to get away from Curtis Yancey in behind and trying to catch up to Cody Welch. A very hard braking zone here into the famous bus stop chicane, the really high curbing that Brandon actually catches a bit of with the car, and it's going to send him around. It gets the back end exposed to Curtis Yancey in the 51 car. Doesn't slow up, taps the back end there of Jackson. That'll send him around. This might give an opportunity to Davey Hendricks. Remember a podium last week? He might try to go for 2 in a row. Brandon Jackson is back up to speed. Very little damage there in the 99 car, but again, those heavy curbs can get the back end of the car loose, and if a car can't react in time and gets into your quarter panel, well, we've seen many times this season how that can, put the stop to at least one stint, or maybe even one's bigger race if they take damage. But luckily, Brandon Jackson continues to chug along, it would seem.
Yeah, continues to chug along. Didn't do too much, but Jackson all the way down to 12th position. I know he is not going to be happy with that 51 car. I believe the 51 and the 99 had a couple of run-ins last week, so I believe those drivers don't like each other too much, and I'm sure now that the disparity between the 99 and the 51 grows even stronger. But real quick, the driver of the 99 car, Brandon Jackson, has a foot cam for us this week, so you can see what he's doing with his feet as he goes around the track. You can see the big toe on the brake pedal and the gas.
Yeah, very intriguing method there of running the pedals. Usually you think with the hanging pedals you have more affordance to keep your foot a little bit higher, but I like his approach. You definitely obviously want to keep the gas there for downshifting, but you never want to keep it too convoluted. Either you're on the brakes, you're slowing down for the corner, but then you want to get on the gas as quickly as possible. You don't want to be switching back and forth through the corners like you would at a more intricate oval. So I really like his approach here in the corners we're seeing. I mean, he's flat out here, as you can see, through the traditional oval here at Charlotte, through turns 3 and 4 on the usual oval. Now down here into the hard braking zone into the final chicane with those really high curves that we saw give him trouble in the bus stop just a minute ago with Curtis Yancey. But he's back up to speed. He's making progress. And this is a very long event. So if I'm Curtis Yancey and I'm worried about Brandon Jackson and how he may react to his perception of that last incident, well, there's plenty of race left for the 99 to track him down.
Yes, 6 laps to go now as the 99 is going to be trying to work his way back up. Right in front of him, Garrett Hall, who looks like he's about to get passed by the driver of the 99 car. Garrett Hall, one of those playoff drivers as well. Also a little bit ways up in front. Curtis Yancey went down the board for a minute. I believe may have been some internet trouble. It showed Davey Hendricks passing him. But yeah, I believe that was just a little bit of internet malfunction there. Davey Hendricks sitting in 6th position. Curtis Yancey right in front of him in 5th. And Cody Welch up there in 4th.
Yeah, Cody Welch is a guy that's just kind of come alive lately. He's been running some great performances. Obviously, his win to start off the playoffs there at New Hampshire, but since then he's stayed consistent. Really, if he wants to amass points here in the playoffs, staying where he is, even if it's in 4th out of the top 3 podium spots, still a very valuable performance. But again, Curtis Yancey, a guy that both very aggressive and very talented from what we've seen, trying to track him down. But Cody, we've seen so many times, and I think over the course of the season, we've seen him kind of refine his approach, start going for points. He's a guy that we've seen be more and more consistent, whereas at the beginning of the season, he seemed like one of those guys that might have one of the more aggressive driving styles, but he's really calmed it down, and he's shown that experience and that poise that those top guys like, Hart, Nickerson, Guzik, Lacey, guys of that like have, and he's really started to show that, and I've been really impressed with what I've been seeing from him. And now he's got Curtis Yancey, who, we've seen all season. He's such an exciting guy to watch. We know he's going to attack, and now is the question of, as we see him on Skycam, he's got lots of wheel movement, but he looks pretty composed, so we'll see how he's able to put up with the challenge here from Curtis Yancey. But if Yancey can start getting some slipstreams here on these oval portions of the lap, might get some good momentum. But a great exit that last time for Welch. You see him on the rear view cam just pulling away there that time. So you never know. It's a very much a game of give and take, but defending is an entirely different ball game from just trying to run a lap here at the Roval.
19 car of Drew Kinney stuck in the middle of the track, and a couple cars gonna be able to get by him as Kinney is gonna have to jump onto pit road. So Kinney all the way down to 26th position now.
And that very point is gonna kind of play into the larger issues. Actually, you see here, Garrett Hall appears to be having some troubles. That'll be another spot for Ricky Hart, who's been moving through the field, but it looks like Garrett just locked up there on the entry to the bus stop chicane. We see it right here. So Ricky Hart catching up to him. You got to think Garrett's eyes are focused towards the back. Just a bit of a late breaking point here into the chicane. Here comes Ricky Hart up the inside, and again, just knows he's going to overshoot, decides not to take the risk and hitting the curb and hitting that outside wall. Just going to slide through. He's going to take a time penalty, meaning he did have to let a couple guys by, but Garrett Hall making the better long-term decision there to avoid sliding through the bus stop through the chicane, where if you bounce off it, can put you in the outside wall and put you entirely out of the stint, force you to go back to the pits. Whereas if you do that, sure, you got to take a few seconds of time penalty, but in the grand scheme of things, just keeping a car on the racetrack and only losing 2 spots, far superior in the grand scheme of the overall event.
Yeah, out front, of course, though, still Nick Nickerson. Best lap time on the race, a 1:22.81. The only driver in the 22s. Not surprising there. Last lap time, 1:25. And the only driver whose last lap time was in the 1:25s. He has a fairly sizable gap, as you'll be able to see here on the board. Really a fairly sizable gap to most drivers. Closest battle right here is Curtis Yancey getting by Cody Welch. Curtis Yancey going to take that 4th position away from Cody Welch in the 85 car, who's going to be back into 5th. But as I was saying there on the map, you can really see how spread out a lot of these guys have gotten over the race. And you can see the 2 car of Nick Nickerson before long, only 9 laps down of 45. That 2 car is going to be catching some lap traffic soon, as quick as he's running.
Yeah, he is. And one thing I was talking to you about, Evan, pre-race is the, how tough it can be to make passes here in the infield at the Roval. I mean, the outside of the track and the actual permanent Charlotte Oval, and no issue, obviously, because, long periods of being on the gas, you get the opportunity to use slipstreams. But once you're in behind a big group of cars there in the infield, there's very little room. So if a car goes around in front of you, the tight walls make it really constricted and really tough to find an opportunity to squeeze by. It's something we've seen the last couple of weeks, how it can be tough to avoid incidents. And here at a road course, the guys are already a little bit loose, can make it even tougher. Now we see the 0-2 car of Charles Oberg, who's already had kind of a tough first day here, not necessarily by his own faults, just he's been involved in a lot of other situations with other cars. So I think he's going to head to the pits this time by, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, now we see, I believe it's the 94 of all sorts of new paint schemes. Still got to get used to names, but that's Hunter Henry there in the 94 car, I believe, trying to defend from Matt Crockett, who again, big stakes for him tonight, just on the fringe of the playoffs. So he's got a lot to fight for. And again, Hunter Henry's a guy that's had some good performances throughout the course of the year, and based on what we've seen so far, he's got decent pace, and if anything, he's really not making too many mistakes. A little bit of damage there, but was able to correct nicely there through the infield section. So he's got a lot to fight for. Currently in 22nd, he's going to need to make up some spots if he wants to guarantee his spot to be. Well, he'd have to take that spot from one of those top 8 playoff drivers. But those guys fighting for those spots now becomes the question of how can you balance the poise and the patience needed to even run a lap at the Roval with the aggression needed to take as many spots as possible. And now we're seeing Curtis Yancey has made the move on Cody Welch to move into the 4th spot.
Yeah, Cody Welch, though, not too far behind. There was a little bit of a gap, or a little bit more of a gap a couple laps ago, and now Cody Welch has caught back up. About half a second back from what I'm seeing, Cody Welch is to Curtis Yancey. And it looks like he seemed to be gaining for a couple laps. He was gaining, now he's fallen back a little bit. But the next closest battle on track is going to be back here with Garrett Hall, who's catching up to Peter Murphy. Peter Murphy sitting in 12th, Hall in 13th. Just a little bit of a gap between those two guys. Garrett Hall looking to solidify his chances in the playoffs, of course. Trouble.
Yeah, Garrett.
Trouble now for James R. Hartley, the 98 car stuck in the grass.
Yeah, Hartley already with some considerable front end damage. We've seen he's been having some troubles. This is him already, off the track here. Not sure where he particularly had trouble. Oh, this would be a particular corner that could give troubles. This altering altitude, kind of slanted downhill right-hander, just really tight there on the apex. I don't know if he was trying to let a car by in behind or something like that, but you gotta take a wider angle around the corner there to ensure that you make it around the apex. And there he just kind of slid through, already damaged with the car. You'd imagine that would be affecting his handling. You see the front right tire kind of caved in there. This is Matt Crockett, the 10 car, considerably off the pace. Thought it may be a passing maneuver there in the 84 car of David Leakey, but no, he's having troubles as well. So this is him coming around the exact same corner here in the infield. One of the final corners. Don't remember the corner number, but it's towards the end here. A high-speed left-hander just lost traction there in the rear end, and it's something that can happen over time if you're sliding the tires too much, really get loose in a couple of spots. Eventually the car just gives up and loses traction. That seemed to be his problem there, and that left-hander, the only corner where, antithetical to what I mentioned earlier, you do kind of have to get the back end around, and in that particular circumstance, the car just did not agree with him. Now, more issues I'm seeing for Hartley live. He is headed into the outside of the turn 1 barrier, actually in an unideal spot. Nick Nickerson, our race leader, is coming up towards him, so he's got to make sure he stays out of the way, doesn't get in the way of the other cars. Now he's headed off, and no more issues. But this is the incident here. 98 car of James Hartley. You see a car to the inside. He was letting somebody by. Gets very deep onto the to the outside. There's Bill Harkins on the inside. Just never really corrects. That was kind of the opposite of that previous incident. And you got to think with how little steering input seemed to register there. Must have just had some damage there in the 98 car. So he's headed back to the pits. A rough set of incidents there for Hartley. But now back to this battle with Yancey and Welch. And huge slide there from the 51 car. He is doing everything he can to keep the 2-time race winner this season behind him.
Yeah, Curtis Yancey doing everything you can, like you said, to keep him behind him. But Curtis Yancey, one of those drivers that seems to like to drive the wheels off of it. He's definitely a good driver, but there you can see sideways a little bit for that 51 car. Curtis Yancey likes to drive it loose, likes to drive it on the edge, and that may not be the best thing. This is already a slick track, and it's only lap 12 of 45, so you can only drive on the edge for so long before you find that edge and you go over it. Curtis Yancey, though, sitting in 4th position right now and pulling away from Cody Welch in this last lap at least.
Yeah, really good lap there for him. But yeah, you make a great point, Evan. That's probably, not in most situations here at the Roval the best approach on a track that can be brutal there for getting loose and oversteer, especially on on guys that tend to slide the back end around more. Now making the pass here on a lap car just ahead. I believe that was Hunter Henry in the 94 based on the paint scheme, I would guess. Yeah, it is. So Hunter Henry letting a few guys by is going to go his first lap down. Well, did previously when Nick a ways up the road passed him, but now he's going to let Cody by as well. Cody did get by in a more opportune spot, so you would have thought that would help him gain time, but Yancey just a really good lap that last time by. I'd be curious to know the comparison lap times, but you'd think with Welch, in theory, having the slipstream there around the corner, so he'd have the advantage. But now we see Ricky Hart making the move there on Kevin Foster, and Ricky Hart now into the top 10 is up 13 spots under green entirely in 13 laps. Just what a performance here for the 64 car. I talked about it pre-race about even aside from just road course ability, whether you want to call it skill or talent, you also have to have the ability to know the car and to know what's going to happen when it gets loose and how to correct it. And Ricky just seems to know how to do that. He seems comfortable with the car. Here we're going to go to his onboard feed. Of course, he runs Skype, which a lot of other, sorry, not Skype. He runs a VR, which a lot of other drivers in the series don't. So you don't get to see his eyes, but you just see the pretty aggressive movements there on the wheel. He's making some pretty aggressive flicks there to keep the car underneath him. But as long as you're comfortable and you know the Xfinity car and you know its limitations and you know how much you can push it in order to keep it from getting loose, you can kind of ride that line. That's probably the better way to, live on the edge like Curtis Yancey typically does. That's probably the road course equivalent. He's doing it to perfection. Now up into the top 10. Great race so far from the defending series champion.
Yeah, our defending series champion, obviously, with 13 spots gained under green, is going to be your biggest mover of the race so far. But the second biggest mover going to be Mason Flagar, driver of the 72 car, sitting in 16th position right now and has gained 9 spots since the race started. The 12-year-old from Las Vegas, Nevada. 8 race starts on the season, hasn't gotten any top 5s or top 10s, but we've seen him up there. He's one driver that we've definitely mentioned his name a good bit, just hasn't been able to get the finishes. But right now, up 9 spots from the start, sitting in 16th position.
Yeah, and looking at his lap time so far throughout the race, doesn't really seem to have had any instances, running pretty consistently in the 129s, 130s, so that's working for him, and he's not making mistakes. Now looking at this battle here, that's Bill Harkins there in the 11th, or the number 11 entry, trying to keep an eye on who that other car is with him. But yeah, he's in a pretty fair battle as we speak. That's the 76 of Mark Allen Bivens just getting by now, so a couple guys here who've, just had to let Nick Nickerson by, but now that he's gone, they can kind of focus their efforts to each other rather than trying to let Nick Nickerson by. And yeah, both guys that have had relatively consistent seasons. Bill Harkins has, as of late, really been pretty good at avoiding wrecks and things like that, and coming away with pretty fair results. Whereas Mark Allen Bivens, I feel like a guy that I haven't talked about quite as much in the last couple of weeks. But here's Benjamin Lacey, the guy that currently runs an 8th. Pretty quiet race so far for him. Haven't mentioned it much, but of course last week's winner, he's been a guy we've talked about plenty in the last couple of weeks. Won at Darlington and goes to one of 3 drivers to have multiple wins on the season. So Benjamin Lacey, a guy that really, I mean, he's made a name for himself as one of the top threats here in the championship. But similar to what I was just talking about, how Cody Welch has kind of moved into that consistency role, Benjamin Lacey does the same thing to perfection. I feel like, Evan, I don't know about you, but there are very few moments in this series where you look at the timing tower and he's not there in that top 10. He just seems to be so good at finding a spot and staying there. I'm seeing now that he's relatively in the ballpark with Tyler Rowland, who's also quietly had a pretty good race overall. But there's a few of those guys that are able to run in that part of the field. Always we see a guy go wide there in 1. Lacey will take advantage. But yeah, those guys that are able to run kind of mid-top 10 and just kind of stay there may quietly have great playoffs for themselves and move up into the top 8 if you're a guy like Rowland or Lacey.
Yeah, Benjamin Lacey, one of those guys that, like you said, just seems quiet. 2 wins, 8 top 5s on the season. If he's not winning, he's one of the guys up front. As there you saw the 99 car, Brandon Jackson, get sideways coming out of that last corner. But another driver that I feel like is going to have a good run in the playoffs and is just nice and quiet, Brett Guzik, who today might not be as quiet as some others, as he's running 2nd position right now to Nick Nickerson. The only driver, well, I don't want to say that's been able to keep up with Nick Nickerson, but the only driver that's been able to keep up with Nick Nickerson this much. Guzik only 9 seconds back from Nickerson. The 3rd place driver of Molyneux, 23 seconds back from Nick Nickerson right now.
Yeah, Brett Guzik is really, again, we just talked about Evan, like maybe not quite in that Nick tier. He's kind of off on his own planet, but Brett is solidly like in that 1B category right now. Like he's run a perfect race so far, really, for everything you would be expected to do, and he was faster on lap 14 than Nick was. Like in certain laps where Nick hits traffic, Brett does run better lap times. And I feel like it's the first time all year we've seen at a road course on the timing tower that number behind Nick actually going down, because Brett is just, he's doing everything he has to. Brett, another one of those guys, as you just said, has really all year been as consistent as you could ask for. And in turn, the 04 car, if he can really bump it up that extra notch, take a win, and in turn start to rattle off some of those top performances. But he may be proven that maybe to win this championship in the format we have, you don't need those top spots. You just need to know where you are, know the track, and come home in second, which again, as we've talked about in the past, behind Nick Nickerson, is effectively first place in many people's regards.
Yeah, Brett right now sitting in 12th position, so he's going to be out of he is out of the playoffs at this point. Is on the season, he only has 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s. So he definitely has a little bit to gain, but he's not too far behind Curtis Yancey, who is the current cutoff driver. Yancey with 1,068 points, Guzik with 1,055 points. So tied for 12th position in points for Guzik right now, but if he can keep this up and get the bonus points of an incident-free race that it looks like he has so far, that'll definitely be good for him. But one important thing to note, Guzik has moved to the top of the board at the moment, as Nick Nickerson is going to be heading out of the pits.
Yeah, I just want to point out we're going to have a great race here off pit road between Molyneux and Yancey. Both guys almost making contact there on the way into their boxes. They were like dead even there heading into the pits. There's the 51 car getting jacked up on the right side. Same with the 45. Now Cody Welsh enters the pit. So lap 17 here, just past the 1/3 point. Seems to be the lap a lot of the guys are coming in. Way quicker stop here from Molyneux. Got to wonder if he only took 2 tires as opposed to Yancey's 4. But Yancey now just getting out. I think he got beat by Cody Welsh off pit road and another driver. That's Trey Ellis. So a few guys taking advantage there. Maybe Curtis Yancey thinks it's more opportune to either take more fuel or to take more tires. I didn't really test it in my own efforts here with 2 tires. I don't know what the comparison is between the two. I certainly know you need them over the course of the longer runs with how much they burn up. But Ashley Molyneux considerably ahead on the pit exit of Curtis Yancey, and the debut driver, just the same way Davey took his first podium last week. Maybe we could see Ashley doing the same thing just a week later.
Yeah, Nick Nickerson spent 14 seconds on pit road. There you see Brett coming in right now. Nick Nickerson spent 14 seconds on pit road. Ashley Molyneux only spent 10 seconds. Cody Welch only spent 8 seconds. And Curtis Yancey, 14 seconds. Same thing as Nick Nickerson. Couple other drivers only in 8 seconds, though. Davey Hendricks, Brandon Jackson, Benjamin Lacey, Kevin Foster, Garrett Hall, Terry Condis. A lot of these guys only spending 8 seconds in the pits. Ricky Hart Jr., one guy spending 14. As there you see Brett in the pits right now, and everybody roaring by. Tis outside. Nick Nickerson going to go ahead and take the lead back. We'll see where Brett can come out, as Ashley Molyneux, sitting in 3rd right now, is going to look to get by Brett Guzik. As Brett Guzik comes out, I don't think he's going to be able to do it. No, he's not. Brett Guzik coming out of the pits right now and into the infield section. Ashley Molyneux still not into the infield section yet. So Molyneux up to 3rd position with the quick pit stop, but not able to gain any more than 3rd. Brett Guzik losing time in the pits, though. Guzik now 12 seconds back from Nick Nickerson.
Well, we just kind of tooted his horn a minute ago there in regards to Brett Guzik, but again, ran almost entirely a similar pit-in, pit-out laps to Nick Nickerson, who is usually, we've talked about in the past, just dominant at that. Now we see the battle here forming for 3rd. The 2 guys up the road well ahead, but these 2 guys have been kind of close and considerably in somewhat of a battle all race. Both guys running almost identical pit stop entries, but now Curtis Yancey may be using those 4 tires to good advantage. Either he had troubles, maybe missed his box in pit lane, or he just took more tires, because actually Molyneux well quicker there in the pit stop. But Curtis Yancey ran an absolute flyer of a lap this time by. He'll take that spot back, and as we get all the way down to the bus stop, about maybe 3 or 4 car lengths ahead, emphatically better section of the track here than the debuting 45 car, I should say, of Ashley Molyneux.
Yeah, and right now there's no big battles happening on the track. Nobody heading into the pits either. Closest battle, I believe, is going to be this 48 car of Connor Sawyer. And directly behind him is going to be the 18. That's going to be a lapped car of Mitchell Liam Sullivan. You see Nick Nickerson is about to get by him and lap him as well. In front of him is Terry Condis. It's about half a second in front.
A little ways back in the field, ahead in the field, I should say, another battle for position is Benjamin Lacey trying to track down Tyler Rowland. Two guys we just talked about were names we didn't talk about all too much in the series. Whoa, big wash out there from the 80. Rowland really lost the back end there through the corner, but again, great work from him to keep the hands moving, save that car through turn one. But both guys running kind of identical lines, really. Both guys don't seem to be making mistakes, so the 80 car again washes out very far into the corner. Gotta wonder if either hasn't quite warmed those tires up yet, maybe pitted a lap later than music, or he didn't take as many tires at all. And we see the 94 Hunter Henry exiting the pits. So the last of the drivers who had to pit there on that current stint, or that first stint, now just coming out of the pit lane. And there's the 4-car of Trail in for pit stop number 1 on the day. But again, Rowland, he's making it work. One of those guys that appears to be maybe overdriving the car, but is doing so to good effect. And great exit there through the exit there back onto the oval. That's exactly what you want to do to carry speed. And as a result, going to take about maybe 3 or 4 tenths off of Benjamin Lacey, who's just having some trouble there, keeping up to those high-speed sections, but is much better, it would seem, in the technical infield.
A little bit of trouble for the 72 car, Mason Flagar. Not exactly sure what happened, but there you see some damage for him. Flagar all the way back down to 16th position, but still 9 positions in front of where he started in. Let's talk about our biggest mover, Ricky Hart Jr., the 64 car, sitting in 10th position right now and looking to gain on Benjamin Lacey and Tyler Rowland, whose battle is about 5 seconds in front of him. If we go back to that battle, though, Lacey just keeps gaining on Rowland, and a little bit of wall contact there for the driver of the 80 car. But Lacey keeps gaining on Rowland, but just as soon as I say that, Tyler Rowland pulls away a little bit on the speedway section. So almost an even battle there between the driver of the 80 and the 7 as they battle for that 8th position.
Yeah, that really does seem to be the story of this battle, is Rowland being so much quicker there once we got on the oval. But here in the infield, the 7-car Benjamin Lacey just appears to be so good at hitting his marks. And he has so far. Look at how close. It comes within about a car length and a half back of the 80 car. And again, you see the back end there. It's Tyler Rowland just sliding all over the place. But once we get through here, great apex. Like, that was perfect. That was precision. And you're going to see here, once they get back on the power, because of how much earlier he got on the gas, look at the ground the 80 car is going to make up. Like, he's just going to take off. So if Lacey really wants to take that spot, he's got to prioritize a wider apex on those entries, and that'll allow him more top speed here through the oval sections.
Yeah, you can definitely tell where each driver specifically excels. The 7 car getting a little bit sideways. You can definitely tell where each driver excels, and that's what I like about this Roval, honestly, because you got the oval sections, but you have the infield sections, and you can really see, like this, Tyler Rowland, he's good at the infield sections, but he's great at the oval sections. And then somebody like the 7 car, Benjamin Lacey, who's good at the oval sections, but he's great at the infield sections. And it's really fun to see how some drivers will gain in some spots and then lose in other spots. And that's one of the things that I really like watching. But elsewhere on the track, Mitchell Liam Sullivan and Mark Allen Bivens battling for 22nd position. Mitchell Liam Sullivan going to come away with 22nd. Mark Allen back to 23rd right now, and fairly confidently.
Bivens, though, way later breaking point there through the chicane. He made up a little bit of time there to the 18 car that last time by, so keep an eye to see if that battle does develop. But the 11 car here, seen Bill Harkins, he's down 2 spots from qualifying, but you know, he's again one of those guys that they can just make that time back, start to make up some of those time on guys that we've seen like Mason Flagar, who are fast, but now we've seen with damage a couple times getting a little bit wide in certain sections. So if Bill Harkins can really capitalize on mistakes, might be able to make his way through the field. Now he's right behind Brandon Jackson, who one of those guys who he is a lap ahead, perhaps has not quite had the race that he's wanted to, though in his recovery drive that we've seen so many drivers have multiple of this season. Brandon's been doing a great job. But now here is, I believe, the 26 car of Garrett Hall, another one of those guys who, maybe not having the race they would have liked. I mean, Garrett started in 12th, now has moved down 1 spot, but getting very little damage. He is not too far behind Peter Murphy up ahead, up the road through the oval, who just is the first driver not a lap down, as Garrett Hall was the first driver put a lap down by Nick Nickerson a couple laps back. In behind, though, huge send here by the 18 car. Big send by Mitchell Liam Sullivan down the inside of Hunter Henry. That'll be for position. That'll be for the 21st spot. Now, that's David Leakey up ahead, who just exited the bus stop, who lays claim currently to the 20th spot. So Sullivan will continue his lead down the road, try to take over 20th. And for somebody, I know I saw Mitchell Liam Sullivan at some of the practices this week. I know he's a guy that Would be happy with that, with how he was feeling to come away with the spot, even in the top 20, to make progress like that. But this is Ricky Hart Jr. now. He is ahead of both Benjamin Lacey and Tyler Rowland. The 64 car is making his way through the field. Big washout there in the background for the 80 car. I think this is really it. As I was talking about before, Evan, is just Ricky looks so composed. He has that kind of Nick Nickerson level kind of swagger to him. He's just kind of chilling. Doesn't appear to have too many troubles. We're back to his, you can see his, real life camera there on Skype. And again, just doesn't look too, nervous. I mean, obviously in VR, you can only say so much that way, but he's just pulling away and he's hitting his braking points. Whereas Tyler Rowland, we don't have a Skype camera for him, but man, I can imagine on his end, he's having to work that car quite a bit. Not sure if it's just driving style. I mean, he's still, to his credit, and currently sitting in 9th, so not like he's having too many troubles, but he might have that battle rekindled here with Benjamin Lacey, but Ricky Hart will get out of the way of it, clears them by almost 3 seconds in a single lap. Ricky Hart is continuing his charge, now up, what is it? That is 15 spots from the start, which is just absurd entirely under green.
Huge move for Ricky Hart Jr., but if we go back a little bit, Hunter Henry, David Leakey, and Mitchell Liam Sullivan all battling here for 20th position through 22nd. The 18 car of Mitchell Liam Sullivan gonna have it for right now, followed by Henry and Leakey. These guys battling really hard for that 20th position. A little bit further up though, Tyler Rowland and Benjamin Lacey still battling. Lacey making it closer. Tyler Rowland will pull away. But if we head back up front for a little bit, Nick Nickerson out front. Feel like we still hadn't talked about him enough. Nickerson now almost 30 seconds ahead of Guzik and 40 seconds ahead of the third place of Yancey. And speaking of that, Yancey now up to third position. Driver of the 51 car up 3 places from where he started. Sitting in third, Ashley Molyneux in the 45, sitting in 4th position behind him. Then you got Cody Welch to round out your top 5, and Davey Hendricks. Brandon Jackson now back up to 7th position, making his charge, trying to catch back up to that 51 of Curtis Yancey. And then right behind him is Ricky Hart Jr. that we just talked about, up 15 positions from where he started. And battling for that 9th position is, we've been talking about those two, Rowland and Lacey, taking the 9th and 10th positions. Kevin Foster will be directly behind them, sitting in 11th. There you see him coming off a speedway turn 4. So he just got lapped by Nick Nickerson. So now Nick Nickerson has lapped everyone except for the top 10. But if we go back to 12th, that's where you find Peter Murphy, followed by Connor Sawyer in the 48th. And you got Garrett Hall in the 26th, sitting in 14th. 32 of Terry Condis going to be in 15th. And you find our second biggest mover, Mason Flagar, in the 72 car, going to be sitting in 16th position. Followed by Bill Harkins in the 11 in 17th. And you got Jason Greenwell, Hunter Henry, Matt Crockett there in 20th position. Then David Leakey, Mitchell Liam Sullivan, Mark Allen Bivens, Trey Ellis, Charles Oberg. And then Alan Castle, your lowest playoff driver in the 93 car, sitting there in 26th position. And James R. Hartley, Drew Kennedy, Thomas Fensler, and Anthony Caetano to round out your board. But as we're here looking at Alan Castle, you see him letting the 99 of Brandon Jackson there to his inside, as well as Bill Harkins. A big thank you to the driver of the 93 car, Alan Castle, for sponsoring today's race. So head on over to RogueEnergy.com and use code Castle Esports to get 10% off your order. That's RogueEnergy.com and use code Castle Esports, CASTLEESPORTS. No space, Castle Esports, to get 10% off your order of Rogue Energy. Oh, is there some trouble for the 93 car, the Rogue Energy car of Alan Castle? But a big thank you to him for sponsoring today's race. Now we're going to head on over to Trey Ellis and Mark Allen Bivens. Trey Ellis getting by Bivens for the 23rd position.
You want to talk about today's sponsor, Rogue Energy. Nobody on the track seems more energetic than Tyler Rowland, who is still embroiled in this battle with Benjamin Lacey, and it was just in the background there, that shot of Alan Castle, but it's been heating up. I've been watching it in the background. We've seen a few lunge attempts from Benjamin Lacey, but he's stayed composed and has tried to lock it down. I think really now just waiting for a mistake from Roland, because again, Roland, to his credit, has kept the car on track to perfection. Like how he's able to muscle that car around the way he has, but again, gets a little bit too deep into the braking zone. You see here with the curbing, he's making a few slip-ups here. He's going to go for the inside apron, which I don't think Lacey was expecting. Had to kind of make a little adjustment there on the front end, but just look at how loose that number 80 car looks. I mean, again, we're fixed setups here at the Roval in this series, but man, the way that car is driving, it just looks like it isn't. It looks like he's got some crazy low downforce setup working for him. Doesn't mean he's driving bad, it just means he's driving chaotically, but there was the mistake from Benjamin Lacey as well. Gets a little bit too deep into that final chicane, and that'll give Roland some breathing room, but man, just two guys there that seem to be driving the wheels off of these cars, and it looks like a ton of fun, but they got to kind of settle it down a little bit, because not only is Nick Nickerson, your race leader, not too far behind. In fact, he's right behind Benjamin Lacey, so probably going to try to make the pass here at the soonest available opportunity. But if you're the 7 car at Benjamin Lacey, you do want to let the race leader by, but you also want to make sure you do it in a spot that is opportune to not lose too much ground to Roland, and in turn continue your battle the next couple laps.
They're following along with Nick Nickerson as he's able to work through this lap traffic, and that's really what's the test of this race for me, because Nick Nickerson, this is something that you talked about a little bit before, and I feel like we need to bring up on the broadcast. Nick Nickerson may be the favorite driver, but one thing that you said was, if it's any track that Nick Nickerson isn't going to win, or any road course that Nick Nickerson isn't going to win, it could be here. And you can really see the trouble that he has working through lap traffic at a track like this, but he's done such a great job so far. I believe he's lapped everybody except for now the top 8 cars. Ricciardo Jr. going to be the next car that he looks to put 1 lap down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not an easy test at all. And again, I talked about before the claustrophobic feeling of the walls in the infield. There's just really no room to work with. So if a car in front of you spins, which is what I thought more likely it would be, usually Nick is good at silently communicating with lap traffic and telling them kind of where to go through his actions in the car. But if you just have a crash in front of you, that I thought was honestly going to be more prevalent here at Roval. I thought we'd have more people having trouble with the cold tires and the loose race cars. But guys have been great at settling it down tonight and keeping relatively composed, so that hasn't been much of an issue. But yeah, I thought that was... I said, yeah, I thought tonight was going to be the night that maybe the 2 car had trouble. But right now, the 93 car of Alan Castle, again, tonight's race sponsor, he's been having some troubles. He's parked in the infield there, or maybe just letting some guys by as he returns to the track. But back through turn number 1, the 93 car doesn't appear to have any damage. It's just on occasion having some slight moments where he is generally able to correct and keep that loose race car on the track. And I mean, for how tough the Roval can truly be, that is truly an achievement in and of itself. So here's through the final chicane. Some of the high curbing, though he misses the curbs, just kind of that awkward angle he takes, or maybe the car slips a little bit on that second curb. Just too much momentum carrying him to the left there. Now he's having troubles again here in the outside of the infield through this kind of middle infield straight on the exit of that last corner, that sweeping right-hander. So many different tough sections here. And once your race car goes around once, like the 93 at Castle did, and you start to lose grip, it is not a fun couple laps here at the Roval. But now a great battle out of nowhere. Davey Hendricks just been passed by Cody Welch, but not falling back too much, at least not on lap number 27.
And now here, this battle heating back up yet again for 9th position. Tyler Rowland and Benjamin Lacey. Benjamin Lacey right on the bumper of Tyler Rowland in the 80 car. They were less than 1/10 of a second away just a second ago. Now stretching the gap to 0.6 of a second. Up in front, though, Cody Welch and Davey Hendricks. This battle heating back up. Cody Welch was able to get by Hendricks. But now the battle... Cody Welch not letting him, or Davey Hendricks not letting Cody Welch drive away.
Yeah, not at all. And maybe it's a case of just Davey kind of realizing what Cody was doing better, maybe certain sections where he's taking a better apex. And if Davey can just watch him for a couple laps, we've seen in 2 races that the amount of talent and ability to pick up racing lines and the series as a whole, we know he's able to adapt. So maybe he's going to continue to do that, kind of take some elements of the 85's line. But both guys perfect here in this battle between Rowland and Lacey. Perfect apex as they're back onto the oval. Both guys doing everything they need to. But again, Rowland has held them off for the better part of 20 laps now. Tyler Rowland, it feels like every week, he is such a fun driver to watch. Now another battle between Jackson and Hart, this time for 7th position. 2 very different races to this point. Hart definitely has had more progress to make up. Welch is in the pits now. This is about to become the battle for 5th, because Davey Hendricks Brandon Jackson on the inside takes that spot in the final chicane. Now Ricky Hart, who's got all the momentum in the world, might have to capitalize on that kind of backwards momentum. For the first time all season, we've seen it from Davey Hendricks. This may be the chance from the 64 car to go from 23rd at race start all the way into the top 5.
Yeah, and a couple drivers coming into the pit as we still watch this battle between Ricky Hart Jr. and Davey Hendricks heating up. Cody Welch in the pits right now. Brett Guzik pitted from 2nd position. He's out now, but sitting in 4th. Mason Flagar in the pits. Terry Condis was in the pits. Charles Oberg also in the pits. Jason Greenwell coming in now, pitting from 18th position. But battles all around the board heating up. Ricky Hart Jr. and Davey Hendricks, the closest one right now. Cody Welch also in a little bit of battle right here. Kevin Foster going to be right in front of him as he comes out of the pits. See, really close for these two guys. Tyler Rowland and Benjamin Lacey still working on that battle as well. These guys have to be getting tired of each other at this point, but let's go back to Cody Welch as he looks getting by Kevin Foster down to his inside. The 85 car going to take away 10th position. Back up in front, though, Tyler Rowland and Benjamin Lacey. We're back here. Tyler Rowland a little bit higher line than the 7 car of Benjamin Lacey. 0.16 seconds separate them. Will Benjamin Lacey be able to do it this lap? Let's see. Down to the inside. Not going to be able to do it through this turn. The 80 car going to be sideways. 7 car going to take advantage. The 7 car of Benjamin Lacey finally got Tyler Rowland to make a mistake. Benjamin Lacey up to 8th position. Tyler Rowland going to be in 9th position right now as he spins it back around. Ashley Molyneux now pitting from 4th position.
Now there you go. If you were if you were Benjamin Lacey, patience pays off. Finally gets that mistake from Rowland. But here to this battle with Hart and Jackson. Jackson's held him off a couple laps. He's going to have the better outside run off this final corner. Final corner before the straightaway in the infield. So to the inside goes Hart. The worst line. Yeah, he's going to have to give up the line here to Jackson in this long sweeping right-hander we've seen so many guys have trouble with today, because you have to have that outside apex in order to hit that inside mark there on the curb on the inside. So he has to give it to him, but Jackson can afford to slow it down here in the battle. Slow it down, make sure you hit this apex to get back onto the apron. Much better run, though, for the 64 car. Kind of perfect there to get back onto the traditional oval here through turns 1 and 2 in the traditional speedway. So right behind is Ricky Hart. He doesn't seem like the guy who's going to make an aggressive lunge here, especially not with 15 to go. But he is putting pressure on the back end of Jackson. This bus stop is already hard enough as it is. We just saw Rowland make a mistake. Maybe Hart can force it out of Jackson. Jackson, perfect job there, hitting the curbs, but Hart is going to have a great slipstream here back through the final chicane this next time by. This might be his chance to put himself into the top 5, or the top 4, I should say, at this point.
And directly behind these guys, who else would it be but Nick Nickerson? Nick Nickerson now looking to put 5th lap down as there you see the 99 car of Brandon Jackson coming into the pits. That will allow Nick Nickerson to put him 1 lap down. The top 4 drivers, the only ones on the lead lap. So Brandon Jackson coming in the pits for his 2nd pit stop. Out of the top 5, Brett Guzik, the only one who has pitted twice so far. Nick Nickerson still has not come in for his 2nd pit stop with 14 laps to go.
Yeah, it was weird on that last pit cycle. A lot of guys coming in early. We saw there guys starting on lap 29 where they went to lap 17 originally. So maybe guys just really starting to get fed up with the tires more later into the race. But now we see Ricky Hart becoming one of many victims of Nick Nickerson to be put a lap down. But he is still sitting in a very respectable 4th spot. We'll see how his pit in, pit out compared to the other guy he was battling with. Trying to pull the undercut is Brandon Jackson. So we'll see where he comes out in relevance to him. But Nick Nickerson, who you just mentioned, hasn't pitted yet. But now a guy who has, the guy sitting in 2nd, Curtis Yancey in the 51 car, is going to, well, it's not going to be an undercut, but he will pit before Nick Nickerson in the hopes of maybe making up some time, or at least trying to pull away from Brett Guzik, who he did pass effectively under green there in that last cycle. I think he's good enough in where he is in the pits and how far ahead he is of Brett Guzik that he might be able to even challenge for that spot on pit exit. Guzik just coming through turn number 1 now. You see back to Nick Nickerson, though, just getting by a little bit more lap traffic, but there is Guzik through turn 1. Yancey just exiting his pit box, so maybe Guzik, once he got new tires there at the end of that last stint, genuinely did make up some time, because Brett Guzik is looking more solidly in 2nd than ever, and after the race he's had at this point, he most definitely deserves it.
Yeah, Guzik with a great race so far and able to sit in 2nd position, but still, he is not anywhere near Nick Nickerson. The 5th driver in 5th of Molyneux, the 45 car, 1 minute and 31 seconds behind Nickerson. Guzik in 2nd, 1 minute and 3 behind Nickerson. So Davey Hendricks now in the pit as well. So is Nick Nickerson. You see him with that front pit stall headed out. Gonna be the best pit stall on the track. And as he heads out, gonna retain first position. Guzik still not even into Speedway turn 3 by the time Nick Nickerson out of the pits. That's how far ahead that 2 car is right now.
Yeah, I mean, not to toot his horn too much, but to Nick's credit, just a fun anecdote here. His worst non-pit cycle lap, if he'd run it in qualifying, would have qualified him in the top 20, which I think is absurd because that includes all these time he's spent, like he's doing right now, behind lap traffic. And we talked about it before, Evan. These are the situations where we're really going to put the 2 car to the test and see, okay, not only do you know the track, not only are you the road course master in terms of pace and qualifying, but now you got to get by a bunch of cars in some tough sections. And Brandon Jackson, the 99 car, maybe not going to let the 2 car take it quite as easily. Might try to get his lap back here. And the 7 and the 4 car, Lacey and Ellis, kind of forming a blockade there in front. There's Bill Harkins in the 11. The 2 car now 3 wide there through Speedway turn 3. And now he gets by all the lap traffic here. But a crazy battle in behind, guys on all different laps. Trey Ellis battling with Harkins. Both guys a lap down. Now Jackson getting by, who is on the lead lap provisionally. I should say he's now a lap down, but he's not battling with those 2 guys that I just mentioned. So guys all over the place that he has to weave through. But Nick Nickerson continues to chug along. And again, now 12 laps to go. That's effectively 16 to 17 minutes in terms of pure time. Whoa, in the background, Trey Ellis, huge shunt into turn 1. Not sure if that was as a result of the battle with Harkins, but Trey Ellis back up to speed. Some definite complications there for the number 4 car, and you see significant damage to the front hood.
Yeah, big trouble for Trey Ellis. Let's see if we can watch it. Here's his race with Bill Harkins. Real quick, as we watch this, Benjamin Lacey heading into the pits, as is Alan Castle and Charles Oberg, and a big hit right there for that number 4 car. Seen without a hood, but still able to run, and that's a good sign right there. Hunter Henry also coming in the pits right now. Closest battle on the track is going to be right here as the 26 of Garrett Hall in 14th position tries to reel in Peter Murphy in the 38 car in 13th position.
Yeah, Peter Murphy, we haven't talked too much about to this point in the race today, but well, based on his lap times that I can see here, he's been running pretty solid lap times when he's had, clean air. Was running comparable times to the end of Nick Nickerson's last stint he does right now. But now Garrett Hall, big send to the inside. Not exactly a lane that you'd expect to do so. Usually that inside line through the sweeping right-hand number, turn 4, I believe, can be tough to hold your inside apex, especially to make a pass. But Garrett Hall to perfection there to take over the 13th spot. And now Peter Murphy's going to move back to 14th. But one of the last pit stops we're going to see up front all race. Ricky Hart currently sitting provisionally 7th. He's going to come in for his final pit stop of the day. He is going to be racing Davey Hendricks off pit road. He's just exiting now. Davey Hendricks then 54 car. He's behind some lap traffic, but he's just coming out of turn 1 as we speak. It's going to be tight. Ricky Hart now just getting back on the gas, but here comes Hendricks. This will be quite the battle here for 7th spot as we come back on, and Ricky Hart and Davey Hendricks, both guys that played a huge role in last week's race at Darlington. Now side by side, hotter tires for the 54 car, and he plays them to great use there. I mean, Ricky Hart's had positive momentum all day, but now he's got to use these last 11 laps to make the time back up to the 54 car and try to take back the 7th spot.
Now Tyler Rowland looking to reel in Kevin Foster. Foster sitting in 9th position, Rowland in 10th. Just a little bit of a gap right there. And who is it behind Rowland? Nobody else but the 7 car of Benjamin Lacey. He got the spot earlier, but he's going to have to do it again before this race is over. 11 laps to go. Kevin Foster in 9th, Tyler Rowland in 10th, Benjamin Lacey in 11th position. Nick Nickerson, though, still out front. Brett Guzik doing a great job to keep 2nd position. Curtis Yancey in 3rd, Molyneux in 4th, and Cody Welch sitting in 5th position right now. Brandon Jackson holding 6th. Hendricks in 7th, Ricciard Jr. in 8th, Kevin Foster in 9th, and Rowland in 10th.
This battle between Foster and Rowland is heated up as we come through the bus stop chicane here for, well, the 35th time of the race. Only 10 times left to go, so these guys are running out of time, but Tyler Rowland has looked like he's been flying since that last pit cycle. Carrying a lot of pace here as we come through this final chicane. We'll see when he chooses his braking point. It's actually a nice conservative point there. Doesn't attack the curve too much, and as a result, hits it to perfection. Great execution there from the driver of the number 80 car. He is right behind Kevin Foster, going to get a much better apex through this corner. Actually, a little bit wide, I should say. So really want to attack those curbs if you're going to get such a wide exit into the corner. But he's still right behind the 8 car, Kevin Foster. And we've seen all race 7, but it can be so tough for these guys to keep up through the very technical infield section if you can't see your braking zones or your apexes if the car in front of you is blocking them up.
Yeah, Kevin Foster and Tyler Rowland still battling, but up in front a little bit. Cody Welch sitting in 5th position right now, and well, pulling away a little bit now from Brandon Jackson, who was in 6th. It was close there for a second, but not anymore. Keeps getting closer and closer, though, between Tyler Rowland and Kevin Foster. Rowland now being the driver in the back, trying to overtake, and there he goes to the inside of Kevin Foster. He's going to have the pass right now. Tyler Rowland, 9th position. Kevin Foster in 10th. A little bit further back, Garrett Hall going to be able to make the pass on Connor Sawyer. Hall taking away 12th position.
Yeah, Garrett Hall has been quietly moving his way through the race overall race, and he's had some really impressive passes here. So, man, I just wish that he could maybe even get a caution, just repunch the field up, because I think with the racecraft he's shown here today, he could definitely play a bigger role in the top 10 of this race. But right now Kevin Foster is now dropped back behind Tyler Rowland. We just saw that great pass a moment ago towards the bus stop. Now Benjamin Lacey becomes the next car that he will need to worry about. The 8 and the 7 car are going to battle for 10th position, the final spot in the top 10. Of course, viable championship points, not so much so for Foster, though he is definitely in the conversation. But a guy like Lacey, he's battling for the very top of the championship order. He's right up there after his win last week. So this will be a big win for Lacey in the hopes of locking down with the top spots in the championship and making himself known as a force to be reckoned with. He's slip sliding that number 7 car all over the shop. And as we just saw, though, it's working for Tyler Rowland as a strategy. Maybe it's working for Benjamin Lacey, and great job there through that right-hander. See in the rear view cam on the 8 car just how much room he can make up in this infield. And again, we talked about it before, Evan. This is where the 7 car has been driving all day.
Yeah, Kevin Foster right now in the current point standing, sitting tied for 10th position. So this is a really big race for him. He's got to gain 2 spots if he wants to get into the playoffs. It's definitely doable. But there you see the 7 car, Benjamin Lacey, able to make the pass. Kevin Foster down to 11th position. Benjamin Lacey up to 10th.
Yes, indeed, and that is not what the 8 car Kevin Foster wants to see, especially with a margin as close as that in the championship. Any spot will count, and it'll be valuable. And really now, Foster appears to be pretty well clear of Garrett Hall, we just talked about in Pine. Yeah, he is well back. So now it's smooth sailing behind Foster as long as they can keep it on track. The 8 car is A-okay, but now that Lacey Rowland battle, it stayed mostly clean before, but I don't know how you're feeling about it, Evan, but I have a feeling if that heats up again and on colder tires towards the end of a stint, that could result in some sort of chaos. And if the 8 car is in the catbird seat and able to take advantage, he could put himself in an even better spot than he was just last lap.
Yeah, right now, real quick though, a pass for 3rd position, Curtis Yancey, going to be back to 4th. Ashley Molyneux going to be up into 3rd, but as you were saying, yeah, Tyler Rowland and Benjamin Lacey, if those 2 guys get together, it would not surprise me if Kevin Foster is able to take advantage of an accident there. Less than 10 laps to go, 8 laps to go here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, and things are heating up. A little bit of trouble for Brandon Jackson. A slow lap for him. Jackson sitting in 6th position and looking to gain.
Yes, he is, but you're right. He's in terms of the guys ahead of him who are really coming alive here in terms of pace later in the race. Not quite the lap he would have liked there last time by a 1:33. So that is 6 seconds off the pace. That is not what you want if you're trying to catch up to those guys at the back end of the top 5. He just got lapped by Nickerson, so he is going to add back to the tally of all but 5 guys who are not on the lead lap. But one guy, you just mentioned him there, just made the move on Curtis Yancey, but Ashley Molyneux making his debut, running some incredible laps this late in the stint. He ran a 1:25.8, ran a 1:24.5 earlier in the stint, and then a 1:26.5 and a 1:28.2 in the last 2 laps. So Molyneux on the 45 making his debut, currently sits in the podium spots, could get our 2nd straight podium in the last 2 weeks. And the 2 guys that would make up our podium that have just debuted in the series would have a combined 3 races by the time they got their race wins. So there is a lot of inexperience but talent that is coming out here in the top of these race orders, and it's great to see. But again, Ashley Molyneux is heating up here towards the end of the race, kind of a closer here, and Curtis Yancey, as quick as he's been all day, just not quite able to keep up with such solid lap times.
Look who's in the battle yet again, though. The 7 car, Benjamin Lacey, has caught the rear bumper of the 80 of Tyler Rowland, looking to make him make a mistake. Yet again, the 72 car of Mason Flagar up there at the top, letting these two guys battle. But the 7 car of Lacey and the 80 of Rowland at it again. To the inside goes the 7, the 80 up there on the outside. Let's see if he can outbrake him. He's not going to be able to. Or maybe he is. The 80's going to go wide through the bus stop. The 7 car of Benjamin Lacey is going to have the position.
Man, Benjamin Lacey in battles is just a mad scientist. That was perfect car positioning up there to the bus stop to force a bad braking maneuver there from Tyler Rowland. Just got locked up the brakes, got a little too late on the brakes there in the braking zone, trying to focus too much on the 7 car, see where he was. Kind of lost focus in the race in general. Mason Flagar kind of watched it there through the corner, almost wrecked the back end of the 80 car with how he took his apex. But perfect maneuver there from Benjamin Lacey. Again, this kind of shows us that you don't always need to make a super aggressive move on track. Sometimes you just need to know where to put the car to put pressure on the car in front. And as we saw there, even a guy like Tyler Rowland, who's been so composed to the entire race, can make the tiniest mistake, and now that'll put him still a very solid 10th. But Benjamin Lacey, again, a guy with very valuable championship implications in this race, is moving up through the field.
Yeah, closest battle on the track is going to have to be Connor Sawyer and Garrett Hall up there in front of him. And even then, that's a whole second separated. So the guys have kind of spread out right now. Let's pull up our mini-map so you can really see where everybody is. The 2 in the 99 car there in Speedway turns 3 and 4. The 99 car able to get his lap back. So a great job from him, able to get back past your leader in the 2 car to get his lap back. But the 04 of Guzik, as the 2 heads to the checkered flag, you see Guzik on the complete opposite end of the track, middle of the back stretch, as the 2 car is the middle of the front stretch.
I really do feel bad for Nick Nickerson in these road course races, because for all of his efforts, he absolutely deserves this to be talking about him pretty much nonstop. But really, it's just it's become so expected of him at this point, and that really means that every time he does win a race like this in such comfortable fashion, we really do need to give him more credit, because to live up to that pressure of being the road course guy, the guy that people joke about in passing all week is going to dominate the race. And when you have that kind of aura about you, I mean, we can absolutely ask him in the interview, but you got to think it makes things tough. It makes it tough to focus on each and every corner and hit each and every apex and not make a single mistake for 45 laps 4 times a year. But he's done it. Like, I don't know about you, Evan, I haven't seen a single occasion in which Nick has got loose through a braking zone, has had a little bit of a slip up, or a non-lap traffic related issue. It just doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah, Nickerson with 4 wins on the season, looking to make this his 5th. 7 top 5s, looking to make this his 8th top 5 on the season. And he will cement his position in the playoffs. He's already in the lead. I feel like he would have to have a terrible night here to drop out of the playoffs. But yeah, he's just going to keep heading up. Right now, he's tied with Cody Welch for the lead. But right now, with Cody Welch sitting in 5th position and Nick Nickerson about to get the win, I've got to think this is really going to boost up Nick Nickerson heading into the next round of the playoffs.
Oh, for sure. And he's proven all season he can really win anywhere. I mean, he was pulling wins at Phoenix. Obviously, at the road courses he's done all season. He won another oval. Trying to remember where that was. But really, he's shown all season he's had variety and an ability to win everywhere. And that's one thing we're really going to need in our playoffs. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, later in the night. But just so much variety here in our calendar going forward. So you really got to know how to win anywhere. So again, I've tried to make a clarification on this all season. But Nick isn't just the road course guy. He has great abilities anywhere. And he's just as much of an oval specialist as he is a road course guy. And I feel like he's taken this season to try to prove that. And I think in this series, the way the calendar's made up, you really do got to be an all-rounder and have an ability at every single discipline of motorsport in order to win the entire season with all these such talented drivers. So you see there, 4 wins, 7 top 5s, just has had an ability to go anywhere, knock it out of the park, won his hometown race at Phoenix. So far in the season, it really doesn't get better than what Nick has been able to do.
Yeah, his first win on the season was at Long Beach, our first road course. Second win on the season was at the Daytona road course, our second road course. And then he won back-to-back at Phoenix and at Five Flags Speedway. So really different tracks right there that he's won. He won on a street course. He won on the Daytona road course. Then he won at Phoenix and at Five Flags. So really different tracks that this 2-car has been able to put it into victory lane. He also got a second-place finish at Las Vegas and a second-place finish at the Daytona Oval. So he's really a guy that can keep it up front no matter what the circumstance is, and honestly, no matter what the car is. We saw him do really good last season in our Cup cars. He just got unlucky, but you can see he hasn't had the unlucky streak this season, leading the points championship and looking to cement his way into the next round. You saw when we cut the camera to him just smiling as he rides around with 3 laps to go here. I don't really want to say riding around. He may be out front, but you can see he's still calm, cool, and collected, trying to get by all these lap cars. You saw the 85 car was in the grass a little bit. It's going to be Cody Welch, who's in 7th position. But you can see smiling right now, calm, cool, and collected as he rides around to get his hopefully 5th win on the season.
Well, I mean, again, I don't mean to suggest that this is going to be anything but a Nick ride to the finish. Guy doesn't make mistakes. He's Davey Hendricks, who I think did make a move on him, actually. I think the 54 car, I think, may have passed him on track here. So Davey Hendricks, kind of a fixture in this series, even in only 3 races, a short sample size, but he's made a name for himself, just got a spot pack and took his lap back. So maybe Nick is starting to coast. But, I mean, Brett, I don't suggest that he's doing it purely on pace. I think Nick is starting to blow up. But in the last 4 laps, Brett has been faster, all 4 of them, than Nick Nickerson. So Brett, I mean, we should just give him absolute credit, because, man, what a race he's put together overall. Like, it almost makes me sad for him, because I think if you, some sort of handicap, like if Nick had qualifying troubles and started from the back, had to work through traffic, I think we may be seeing an actual battle for the lead here, because Brett is just like so good tonight. And now he's finding this pace here at the end of the race, which, a little bit too late. Maybe it is just Nick warming up, but again, good to see that he is running faster by the end of the event. And Brett, I mean, we've got one more at Road America. If this is a sign of things to come, we see any slip up at all from Nick Nickerson, he may have in the back of his mind now, well, there's a guy that can in some way be in the ballpark of challenging me for my spot. And even that in and of itself is an achievement. So congrats to Brett Guzik on just a great performance all around. I've been really impressed with what I've been seeing from him tonight. Yeah,
the 04 car has had a great night. I know Brett has some real-life racing experience. I don't know if any of it is on road course cars, though, but it looks like it only 28 seconds behind Nick Nickerson there in that first position. And then the third place of Molyneux, almost a whole minute back from Nickerson. So a really great job from Brett to even keep it that close. We come to road courses, and you really expect Nickerson to lap everybody else, but Brett doing a great job to keep up. And with now the final lap, I believe, closest battle on track is going to be the 80 car of Tyler Rowland and the 8 of Kevin Foster with only 1 lap left. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, but is barring some unforeseen circumstance, I believe this is going to be Nick Nickerson's race as you see him coming through the infield section right now.
Yeah, as long as he can get by these couple lap cars here, Davey Hendricks, and I believe that is, it's not Bivens, I don't think. Whoa, back in this battle with, I'm watching in the background, Foster Rowland. Rowland had quite the moment here. Almost lost the back end there on the exit to the bus stop, manages to gather it up, but that is going to give Kevin Foster, as long as he can keep that car safe and run, well, even a second lap slower at most than Tyler Rowland, he can pretty much lock this thing up and take it home. Rowland, though, sending it through the chicane. I don't know if he caught that in the background, but the 80 car is just flying now, doing whatever he can to try to take home that 9th spot. You know he's going to fight for whatever spot he can after the very stressful and very, action-packed performance he's had. But back to Nick Nickerson there in the background as we wait for this battle to heat up. Davey Hendricks is going to hold on to his lap as long as he can come a few more corners away, because Nickerson is getting there. Rowland, you see there, back to this battle, going a little bit too wide, so we'll come back to that in a moment. But Nick Nickerson, the final time through Speedway 3 and 4. Again, 4 times this season the 2-car took away wins. 2 at road courses, 2 at ovals. I guess it's only fitting that now the majority go to road courses. The final time through the chicane, Nick Nickerson has done everything he's had to get to win number 5 on the season, first of the playoffs. Watch out, championship contenders. Nick Nickerson, for the 5th time back to victory lane, has done everything he's had to, and as a result, takes over your championship lead. But back here to this battle, just checking on Rowland and Foster. Foster now well clear of Rowland. The 8-car just one more time through the final bus stop, so he will try to lock it up, come home, and hold on to 9th. Looks like he will, but Brett Guzik now just coming across the line. He is going to take home 2nd, and just in a moment, Ashley Molyneux in his debut is going to come home. Well, he's actually back in the bus stop. Got a little bit of time, but Brett Guzik crosses the line. Just again, we said it all race, Evan, but what a quiet, but what a great performance from Brett Guzik. Like, man, that was star making and really shows the potential for things to come. And again, Ashley Molyneux out of nowhere, like a name that I was unfamiliar with heading into the race, but he has more than made a name for himself through the final time through Speedway 3 and 4. just kind of did everything he had to. Curtis Yancey, we know how quick he can be, but Ashley was even faster. The 45 car through the final time through the chicane comes across, debut podium in the very first race, making this series look easy. Great job to your 3 podium contenders and to Curtis Yancey and Brandon Jackson, who looked to round out your top 5.
Yeah, as these guys head on around and finish this race, Nick Nickerson so far out ahead that so many drivers still haven't been able to head around and finish. You see the 99 car of Brandon Jackson come home in 5th. Real quick, we're going to go ahead and throw it to a commercial. Before we do that, though, again, one final time, a huge thank you to Alan Castle, driver of the 93 car, for sponsoring tonight's race. So head on over to rogueenergy.com and use the code Castle Esports. See a beat up 93 car, but nevertheless, a huge thank you for sponsoring. Head on over to rogueenergy.com and use code Castle Esports for 10% off your order. ROGUE energy.com and use code Castle Esports. That's CASTLE Esports. No spaces, nothing like that. Just Castle Esports. Get 10% off your order at rogueenergy.com. So a huge thank you to those guys. And real quick, we're going to throw it to a commercial, and we'll be right back after the commercial. We'll show you our final results, and then we'll head to our interview of the top 3. And if we can, we'll see our points, and we can see who made it into the next round. Don't know if that'll be updated yet, though. But real quick, we're going to head to a commercial. We'll be right back.
Watch
Lap, Jelly Nicker. He gets Nicker.
but a bit of hypertrophy as well as but not games. Check it all out over at evanwallmedia.com. Thank y'all and you enjoy the race.
All right, as we head back here looking at the 93 car of Alan Castle again, the drivers are getting finished. Let's go ahead and we will pull up our final race results. Let's look at that rundown right now. All right, so finishing first tonight, of course, Nick Nickerson, driver of the 2 car, then 27 seconds behind him. For Brett Guzik Motorsports, Brett Guzik in the 04 car, finishing in second position. A great run from him, like we said. Then in third position, Ashley Molyneux, the 45 car, followed by Curtis Yancey in the 51 and Brandon Jackson in the 99 to round out your top 5. Last driver on the lead lap was 6, Davey Hendricks in the 54 car, followed by Cody Welch, Ricky Hart Jr., Kevin Foster, and Tyler Rowland to round off your top 10.
Then after that, we got Benjamin Lacey finishing in 11th, the guy who had a very eventful night tonight, but really did everything he had to come away with maximum points and stay in the top 8 in the championship after a win last week. But we got Peter Murphy coming home in 12th, just behind him. Garrett Hall, another guy, made a number of passes today, but comes home in 13th in the end. Kind of speaks to just how quick those guys up front there were. After that, Connor Sawyer will come home 14th. Terry Gondas finishing in 15th. Mason Flagar coming home in 16th. Jason Greenwell in 17th. The very own Bill Harkins finishes in 18th. David Leakey in 19th, and Trey Ellis there, a great race overall, but had that one unfortunate incident towards the end that put him in turn 1 wall that will bring him home in 20th.
21st position, we have the driver of the 94, Hunter Henry, followed by Matt Crockett in the 10, then Mitchell Sullivan, Mark Allen Bivens, Alan Castle, 15 laps down in that 93 car in 25th. In 26, Charles Oberg, James Hartley, Drew Kinney in 28th, followed by Thomas Finsler in 29th, and rounding out your field, didn't get to start, Anthony Caetano in the 79 car in 30th position. So that's your field right there, and we'll see if we can get with Ashley Molyneux, who finished in third place. All right, I'm going to go ahead and throw it down to Marshall Crocker, who is with Ashley Molyneux. Go ahead, Marshall.
Hey, Ashley, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
I gotcha. How y'all doing?
I'm doing very well. First of all, congratulations. I mean, debuts don't come much better than that. Very first race at a track as tough as the Roval, and you take away the podium spot in your very first race. We've had some great rookies these last few weeks getting podium spots, and you do just the same. I mean, the Roval's such a tough track to balance both the technical aspect of road course racing and lap traffic. I don't know your background because, of course, first race in the series. Going forward, I got to ask, after your very first performance, are you going to be somebody that challenges here at the road courses that's comfortable with this style of racing? And is there any certain discipline here in the stock cars that you're feeling really adept at in your abilities?
I'm kind of hoping I am, but I mean, y'all saw Nick. It's a fight for second, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually kind of disappointed I was still that far back from him, because I normally love stock cars and road courses, but this was, I think, the first race I've done with this car on road, and I think it was the first race I've done on the Roval. So I had to do a lot of prep work to actually get ready for it in the first place, and I think I'll be a bit closer at Road America, because for the rest of the season I'm just doing these 2 road courses and then running next season.
Right.
Primarily, though, I am much better on short tracks. I punch above my weight class in them. It's what I started iRacing with, right? So just kind of what I got used to over time. I'll be realistically more of a threat on those, but like I said, next season stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, best to make a name for yourself now and to get people keeping you in mind there for next season. But, again, after the very first race, you make your debut in the series tonight, presumably racing against a number of drivers you hadn't before. What's it like to come in that environment, starting from relatively far up the field, but to not know that many of the people that you're racing around, if anybody? Does that kind of play in your head mentally throughout the race and affect the way you drive people you've never raced with before?
Yes and no, because I don't give quite the same level of room. Or let me I'm sorry, that was the other way around. I give people more room than I ordinarily would, because I don't know. Part of racing people consistently is you learn who you can trust being side by side with for extended times, right? And the only person in here I've raced with is Brandon. So he's the only one I had any idea about how he actually drove. I know a bit more with Bill as well, because he admins in a league I was in for a bit. But beyond that, I was more just worried about not causing a problem for the playoff guys. It's the reason I'm not running the rest of the schedule. I wanted to run a few, but I didn't want to come in and just steal shit from them, right? I'm sorry for swearing, that slipped out. I didn't want to steal stuff from them for the rest of the season or cause any issues. So that was the main thing I wanted to come in today and do, was realistically put on a bit of an okay performance and just keep it clean and not impact anybody else.
Well, I mean, one way to avoid the playoff drivers was to drive well in front of them, to stay out of their way in that way. And that's what you did tonight. I don't think anybody would have any issues with how you made a name for yourself tonight and avoided the chaos going around for some of the guys fighting here for points. And really to round off tonight, I mean, you talked there about Road America, you making your other appearance here in the 2 road course events towards the end of our calendar. Road America, you got to think a very different event from the Roval. I'm sure you sound like you're familiar with the road course side of things. I'm sure you know the track and you know how much different it is from Roval. Of course, here it's very claustrophobic, very tight passages in the infield, as opposed to Road America, much more sprawling long straights, a very different racetrack. So from what you take away tonight in the series, what are you going to kind of adapt that to and learn going into a very different Road America for the end of the season?
Primarily that I learned how to make these things turn on a road course. Because when I started practice with this the other day, I was running like 129s because I could not get the thing to turn. I just kind of had to brute force my way through trying to learn it. But Road America, with it being as different as it is, that and some nuances with how the car behaves under braking, it's really all that's going to be transferable, I think I'll be a bit closer to second then. Still don't think we're going to have anything for Nick, but who knows?
It's a very high bar to set for sure. So I think, even just compete with a guy like Brett, who also ran a great race today, is good enough of a goal in the short term. And then next season, once you've got some more races under your belt, you can really take what you did today. And you don't have much progress to go in terms of track position, in terms of spots. I mean, you're 2 spots away in your debut race, so not a ton of ground to make up. But hey, it would be a pleasure to watch somebody like yourself challenge Nick and next year's season with some more chances and more road course opportunities. But as we always do in the interviews, in your very first attempt, you're going to come away with an interview as you finish on the podium in your debut. So as always we do, if you have anybody at home you want to give a shout out to, or you have any sponsors you want to mention, now is the opportunity we grant to anybody in the interviews.
I want to thank Morton Salt for not suing me for running their decals without ever contacting them or receiving money for about 4 years now. Thanks to Bill for letting me in the first place, because I know it. When people want to come in when you're doing a playoff system, it's iffy. You know, Bill had experience with me before. He knows I'm particularly on road courses. I'm good. So he knew I wouldn't cause any issues. But still, I watched back through the broadcast, and thanks y'all for broadcasting it. But beyond that, it's kind of a tradition of mine. I'm going to thank my mom. So thanks to my mom. She doesn't watch. She doesn't care about iRacing at all. But thanks, Mom.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm sure she appreciates it, even if it's not literal. But yeah, I mean, as from one fellow road course specialist to another, I really appreciate having another in the series that can bring something different to that side of things. And really looking forward to, with what you did tonight, having somebody new to keep things exciting, to keep things competitive next year. And I'm sure, again, you made a statement to a lot of the guys behind you there in your very first performance. So congratulations, Ashley. Great job in your debut. And we'll see you in a couple weeks at Road America for the next round. And until then, have a great rest of your week and have a great rest of your, I guess, couple months. And yeah, we will see you come round 50. I don't remember what round Road America is, but we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Catch y'all later.
Awesome.
That was Marshall Crocker with Ashley Molyneux. And now down here, I have got Brett Guzik. Brett, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, Evan.
Well, before this, you've had a 5th place finish at Daytona Road Course, then a 4th place finish at Five Flags, 3rd place finish at Atlanta, and now your best finish on the season, 2nd place here at the Charlotte Roval. What did you do? We've seen you've been good on the road courses, but you've never been this good. You really didn't let Nick get that far ahead. What did you do between our previous road courses and this week that really made you step your game up and able to at least kind of keep up with Nick up there up front?
I think the biggest thing that I've done is just try and figure things out with my steering wheel, as well as just practice a lot. You see Nick in there all the time. He's making, hard laps all the time. He's trying to, push himself to the limit, trying to make himself, as much of a stud as he is on the road courses. And so I figured that I had to kind of do that to even have a shot to even get in the playoffs. If I did, I didn't figure it would go as well as it did. I didn't even know that some of the drivers ahead of me had finished where they did. I thought I was honestly out coming across the finish line, and I'm pretty sure that we've had a pretty big turn of events here in the points later.
Yeah, I don't believe the points are out just yet, but I'm sure that's going to be a big shift for sure. But assuming that you do make it into the top 8 drivers with that finish, we've got the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, then we've got Rockingham, and then Talladega in the next round. Is that a round that you really look forward to, or do some of those tracks kind of scare you?
Some of them are probably not my favorites. I'm not really that big of a fan of the Charlotte Oval. We have Rockingham, right? That may be, iffy. I feel like I have a kind of a new lease on this playoff life. I had a very bad first 2 races, so I'm just trying to turn it around, and hopefully I can turn it around enough to be competing with the guys here at the end of the season.
Yeah, I know at the beginning of the season at Daytona, our first restrictor plate track of the season, you got a little bit unlucky, and we had so many drivers you didn't even make it into the race. So we got Talladega coming up, 75 laps. It'll be the cutoff from round 2 to round 3. Are you excited to get your first restrictor plate track of the season under your belt?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even make it to the I guess the feature event there at Daytona, so it'll be interesting actually being able to race in a restrictor plate race here. I probably haven't done it in a while, but I think that track's going to be more of survival for the most part from the way I see it. I think it's just going to be a survival race. I'm just try to accumulate as many points as I can. That's really about all I can do each race, is just try and do as well as I can. And if it works out, it works out. If I get into the top 4 after the next 3, so be it. But I'm just taking it race by race.
Yeah, it's definitely the correct mindset to go. Survival is usually one of the best ways to get through, especially the way that we've seen some of these last couple of races go in this league. Even though tonight was a great clean night, but getting ready to head, well, I was not really head anywhere. Next week we've still got Charlotte, even though it's a different layout, so getting ready to head to the other layout of Charlotte next week. Before I let you go here, so that you can already get practicing for that, like I'm sure you will be, is there anybody that you want to go ahead and thank? You know the drill. You've been interviewed before, so this is your time to say whatever you want.
Don't have a ton of people to thank. I'd like to thank though my family at home. They're probably watching. I think they are watching right now. They're probably listening to me ramble on and on. But also I'd like to thank you guys as well. You guys are doing a really good job. I get to watch a YouTube stream every day at work, or not at work, quote unquote. I shouldn't have said that, but I should say that I get to watch it on a Thursday. But I just thank you guys, as well as Bill Harkins and Matt Crockett, for putting these events on every week.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be able to do it. Happy to be able to be here on such an exciting event every single Wednesday. So thank you to Brett, and hopefully we'll be interviewing you next week.
Yep, hopefully. Congrats to Nick as well.
Yep, we'll see you. That was Brett Guzik, driver of the 04 car. I'm going to go ahead and throw it down to Marshall, who is with your race winner, Nick Nickerson. So go ahead, Marshall.
Hey, Nick, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Hey, how's it going, man?
It is going very well. And again, the tradition continues, man. It feels like every week we come here, we all post theories. We say, okay, some sort of crazy method. We're here at the Roval. It's going to be tough on lap traffic. That was kind of my storyline pre-race. I said, the tighter passages there in the infield, there are definitely some less opportune sections with high curbing where it can be tough to pass lap traffic. We knew that might be a consideration. So the first question is, did that play a part tonight? Did you find that much trouble with the tighter corridors, that infield? And was it easy to find your way past traffic at such a thin track in some parts?
It definitely wasn't easy. I mean, I think I feel that I was able to get past traffic better than I expected, which is good, I guess. But yeah, this track is it's so close quarters that you don't get those long stretches to really make good passes. There's only a couple of them. And then those long stretches that it does have goes into, really tight bus stops or corners, and it just makes it for passing very difficult. But I made a couple of ballsy moves there when there was just like a bunch of cars, just to see if I can get out in front of them, and then, get on the brakes as late as possible so I can make some room. But fortunately it worked out.
It did, and
Yeah.
you got to find your fun throughout the race there. You got to, take passes where you can get them, even if they aren't for position. And of course, you won this season 2 road courses and 2 ovals prior to tonight. You had 4 wins heading into tonight's round, and of course, you won at both Long Beach and Daytona Road Course, 2 very different tracks, even if one was technically a Roval, if you consider Daytona Road Course a Roval, but both very different. I mean, the Long Beach was a generally tight track, but quite wide straightaways. There were some very intricate sections to that, whereas Daytona Road Course much more wide and spread out. Tonight we come to the Roval, a very different track. Do you just want to kind of talk us through the differences between that and the other races and how you dealt with those in your preparation?
Yeah, this definitely is a little bit different track. Like, driving it was a little bit more different. You couldn't really, because there's no long stretches, your tires never cool down. And then it gets very slippery because you're constantly turning, and you can't really push it into the corners like you can at some of like the Daytona and even Long Beach. Long Beach had some pretty long straightaways where tires can cool down, but that was the biggest thing, man. Like, once those tires heated up, it was near impossible to cool back down. And then, I got tires on my first pit, so I had to run, I want to say that was 25 laps on a set of tires, and like those last 10 laps were brutal. Like, it was very hard to keep that thing straight. I was probably, 5 seconds off my fresh tire pace, just trying to keep it on the track.
Right, well, you kept it going, you come away with the points, and that was really all you were looking for here come playoff time. Speaking of the playoffs, bigger picture, Cody and Benjamin, some great performances the last 2 weeks. They've really been kicking it into high gear, and with those guys, starting to pick up the wins here at varying tracks. Was there any pressure in your mind to come away with a win to really, remind people that, you have a presence in the championship? And do you think you can keep that going the next couple of weeks, keep rattling off the wins you've been reaching at so many points so often this season?
Yeah, so my biggest concern is Talladega, of course. Just like in real life, like anything can happen there. So it was paramount that I can get as many points as possible before we get there, because after that, I feel like I would probably be pretty good. That's why I wasn't running as fast as I possibly can here. I was just trying to tone it back and, just trying to keep it on the track so I can collect those 5 bonus points for a clean race. Other than that, I mean, Cody has kind of shown his power in this like second half of the season, and I know he won like a race. I think it was a race that I didn't show up to, but yeah, he's definitely somebody you kind of have to worry about now, because when he has speed, he just like it's right there. It's not like I guess it's not gradual. So, like at New Hampshire, he had a ton of speed right out of the gate, and that kind of worries me. Like, what other track does he have figured out that I don't quite have? Guess we're looking forward to Rockingham. Rockingham's definitely an interesting track. That's another tire eater. So, again, that's kind of against me because I'm not too good at saving tires on ovals. So we'll see how that one plays out. But everything else, I mean, it seems like it's going pretty good. Congratulations to Brett. I mean, he put in a lot of practice this week and he got second, and I think a clean race as well. I mean, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, no, he ran an exceptional race from start to end. I was so impressed with what I saw from him. And again, I suggested earlier that if he's able to keep that effort up and run those lap times, he didn't seem to falter at all in running as consistent 125s, 126s. So I think that is really the missing ingredient there that Nick, you kind of have a monopoly on right now. But once guys start to figure that out, I think there's going to be some good competition. So both for Road America at the end of the season and next year, I think you got some guys to worry about. But again, if you just keep doing what you're doing tonight, you create a very high benchmark for guys to have to reach it all. But again, as we always do in the interviews, you deserve it as much as ever. But if there's anybody at home you want to give a shout out to, anybody you want to mention, or as always, any sponsors you want to talk about?
I guess my girlfriend for letting me do this a few days out of the week, and got to thank Bill for putting in this league, and Matt does a lot of stuff too. Just a freaking awesome league, man, and I appreciate you and Evan for the broadcast, man. Love watching them the next day. It's what I do when I get home. I sit down and watch the race, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Awesome. So, you got to start pulling out some drifts or some sort of accidents or so. Just got to find something more exciting, because when you're just up there up front, it's hard to come up with things to talk about. So if you want to see more of yourself, just throw in a drift or a chaotic slide there every once in a while. And again, I just want to say I created the stakes that if you won all 4, if you swept the road courses, we'd get you a wrestling belt of some sort. You're 3 of 4. You got to start weighting your, I don't know how they measure for belts, but if there's a way to. You got to start doing it, man. You're one away. Road America. I wish you the best of luck, not only in the rest of your playoffs, Rockingham you talk about with tire wear, but once you get there to Road America, got probably the biggest stakes of all. So best of luck once you get there, Nick.
Thanks, man. I suggest everybody practice for Road America, because that is a very difficult track. It's these cars do not have a lot of grip, as we all know very well, and you're going very fast into very sharp corners. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah, if it's tough in an Indy car, it's tough in a NASCAR. Right. That's kind of my rule for road courses. But yeah, best of luck there, Nick. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you. I already forget where we are next week, but best of luck when you get there. Charlotte, yes, we're still here. So you nailed the 4 speedway corners on this track. So once you can just focus on those, we'll see if you can keep it up. But best of luck there next week, Nick. 5 wins on the season. Going to go for round 2 next week, and just have a great rest of your week prepping. And we'll see you in 7 days.
Hey man, I appreciate it. Take care.
Awesome. See ya.
All right, so that was Marshall with Nick Nickerson. And real quick, we are going to cut to our scores, our point standings for the next round. Nick Nickerson is, of course, your leader. But let's take a look at who was able to gain positions and get into that next round. So Nick Nickerson is going to be your leader. As I've said, Cody Welch in second, followed by Benjamin Lacey, Ricky Hart Jr., Brandon Jackson, Brett Guzik, up 6 spots, up in 6th position now. Then Curtis Yancey and Kevin Foster, the final cutoff driver to make it. Garrett Hall was right on the cutoff. He was actually tied with Kevin Foster, I believe, but the tiebreaker allowed Kevin Foster and Garrett Hall out. Trey Ellis, Matt Crockett also out. Greenwell, Murphy, Castle, Ferrara, Hogan, Henry, Hagee, and Weaver all out in round 1. But Nick Nickerson in the lead by a good bit, 19 points ahead of second place now. 70 bonus points for Nick Nickerson. the most of anyone, I believe. That just shows how many incident-free races he had. He has 20 incidents on the season. Nick Nickerson, only 20 incidents on the season. I feel like that's really important. And so, yeah, Nickerson, Welch, Lacey, Ricky Hart Jr., Jackson, Guzik, Yancey, and Kevin Foster are all going to be the drivers battling in the next round. So we've got Charlotte Motor Speedway, 150 laps next week, then 125 laps at Rockingham, and then 75 laps around Talladega. Then after that, the top 4 will advance to the final round. And also, got to advertise, be sure to tune in on 5/19 as we have our All-Star Invitational, a non-points paying race at USA International Speedway, 100 laps around USA International Speedway. Drivers will be able to invite people to race. But as we head off, there's the quick look at the schedule. You can pause it if you want to see that. But as we head off tonight, I'm going to leave it on our point screen. So that's going to do it for us tonight. We'll see you guys next week at Charlotte. Thank you all for tuning in. Y'all have a great night.